Whenever a client supplies you multiple emails full of homebrew lore, sketches, reference art, you know it's going to be a fun project. Now this is a space bear, fellas. You know space wolves, right? You know space wolves you're familiar with. Well, this is a space bear. This is the big Papa Bear in space, so to speak. Yes, that is the theme, and I think it's an awesome one for this gentleman's homebrew Space Marine chapter. And this is his main dude, okay? This is going to lead his forces. And so he had very specific things in mind that he wanted. He wanted to use these claws. He had sketches of this character, and I will insert some of those photos here, of course. And this is what we came up with. Now, let's go over how we got here. Initially, the client sent me a Torgaridon that we had discussed about using prior to him shipping. And he had repositioned a lot of the joints and a lot of the main body of the miniature. Once it reached the studio, there were a couple of adjustments that needed to be made simply because of scale. Once we started working on the project, scale becomes more understandable as a project progresses, and so there needed to be some repositioning and reposing and some rebuilding, which you can see in the photos there. Now we started off with, once we had the substructure and the framework done with this piece, we started with the cloth, and we did a robe, 2 pieces of a robe, a front robe here, and then sort of a separate robe in the back that trails off, as you can see there underneath. There is a belt in sort of a Nordic native style with some animal skin underneath it. You can see the fur and then the actual skin of the pelt folded over as if it were being squeezed by the belt. We added, of course, a cloak, which was green stuffed onto the back underneath the pack, which was already glued in place by the client. We sculpted the fur around it to enclose all of that. We did some streaming detail here with some ribbon on the headdress, or the backpack rack, antlers, whatever you'd like to call it. Trophy rack, I guess. Made some medallions here for his cloak, his kind of pins and some ropes to hold them together. The motion of this miniature is obviously from the left of the miniature, or our right, blowing this way. Now the client is going to be 3D printing a base, but the motion of the whole piece, once it's done, is going to remain like this, where there is wind or motion blowing from here down this way, right? So you can see it like that, as if the wind were catching all of these things. He is striding forward with his claws up. And to maintain that, it took a while to build these streaming cloth bits. And we tried to maintain that throughout, especially with the cloak, which took several hours to actually cure in this fashion. We did some weathering to it, but to keep it in this motion was quite a bit of work. But I think it really paid off. The streaming cloth, there are actually 2. There's the one here, and then one folds behind him, goes behind his back and underneath the cloak, and comes out right here. So lots of little detail. We added a little bit of detail buckle work here, which was nice. The fur boots were accomplished by sculpting a substructure of green stuff and flattening it off. Well, excuse me, let me back up. I actually removed quite a bit of material from the legs, because if you sculpt on top of the legs as they are, they would be extremely bulky. So we removed a lot of material and then smoothed everything over with a layer of green stuff all the way around. While that was curing, we drilled a hole in the back where we fit a piece of fishing line and let it cure to stage, I let it cure to stage 4, so about an hour and a half. And then I began to wrap the fishing line around and glued it behind the knee where it would be hidden. That allowed me to press into the green stuff so it looked like the wire was pressing into the fur, and then I sculpt the fur out and over some of the fishing line to make it look like it is covering some of it. So it was all done in stages, and it's all time sensitive. If you don't get it right and you screw it up, then you have to start all over. So it is a little bit of a task. But I think overall everything turned out really well. This chain was provided by the client, and we wrapped it around the knee, around the legs, and there's some holding his backpack on. The chains have significance to the chapter, to his lore. And he's more than welcome to. I'm hoping he maybe adds some more somewhere on the base. He could add some more detail. He could have pouches, a little equipment. But I think as it is, I like it. I would, well, maybe something right here, maybe some equipment. Lastly, before we close out this little overview video, I want to again mention why I hate Forge World. The client was particularly set on these claws, and I get it. They look very good. These are from the Corpheron set from Forge World, but they're extremely delicate. They actually showed up bent and broken. They are fiddly. They have bubbles and pockmarks in them. I would just like to say that if another company ran their product QC like Forge World, they would go under. And there is a reason I really dislike Forge World. Now, that said, he has purchased a new set of these, and he will be retrofitting them. So he'll be removing the arms and putting on new arms, gap filling and finishing all that up. I'm not going to do that for him here because he lives in Australia, and if I ship this thing repaired and fixed, I think that it will just break again. So we are actually going to ship this without the backpack trophy rack, and I think everything should show up just fine. So I hope you liked it. I enjoyed building it. It was quite the project, but I think it turned out in the end. Let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed the look.